and a passenger in the front seat there. Heavily tinted windows preventing us from seeing very clearly in the back seat. However, you can see some clear damage along the front bumper, and the left side of that vehicle has clearly scraped something and is now making a northbound turn just north of the 10 freeway, preparing to bail. There is a PD look at that, jumping out of the moving vehicle and running for it. The vehicle keeps moving as Glendale PD moves into position here. They're right behind them, just a few blocks back. Also an airship overhead, as well as the two suspects, driver and passenger, run down the block through a driveway onto private property, looking for a hiding spot. Somebody in the front yard there, as they continue to run into the backyard, looking for an entry point into that building, into that home, possibly a multifamily home here, as they look for an open window or an open door, trying to hide out. Again, Glendale PD does have eyes from above. There are units now coming into the frame here momentarily. This is an apartment building along 21st Street and Cimarron Street here, just north of the 10 freeway. Looking for any sign of movement. Very possible they may have entered this building by now. Haven't seen them move away from this property. Certainly a possibility. We did lose sight momentarily. There are some the west side of the building, neighboring another property here. Looking for any movement whatsoever. So far, still no ground units in position here, although the helicopter is calling out the approximate location, looking for any sign of those two individuals that ran out of that car, appear to be hiding out somewhere near this apartment complex. As we continue to look for these suspects, we can say that there is no search in progress just yet. That helicopter appears to have isolated this property as to their destination, but still no patrol cars anywhere in sight. They were just getting off the 10 freeway, but somehow managed, or appears that the suspect managed to lose those officers when he got off the freeway. There is the parked car. The vehicle,
I don't know that I'd say it was parked, Chris.
Into a parked van.
I don't know if I'd say it was parked.
That's when the passenger jumped out and followed the driver into that apartment building right there.
Hey, Chris, it's Philip Palmer joining you, watching the chase that has been quite dangerous at times, driving over 100 miles an hour. We picked it up just before the suspects in this bailed, and you saw it. That's an interesting way to park the car. They just basically opened the door at a slow rate of speed and just let it keep rolling. And then we saw it plowing into the back of that van. So Chris is in Air 7 HD and has been following this, but it went through the passage. It started in Glendale, jumped up on the 210 freeway, which is where the 210 and the 2 basically is where we were really seeing some high rates of speed, over 100 miles an hour at times. But then we ended up watching get on the 10, and then now the final here is at 21st Street, where the suspects bailed out, and Chris Christie watched both of them. We could see them talking through the front windshield, Chris, and then that was shortly after that they seemed to have made the decision that they were going to get out.
That's right. For some reason, the driver dumped the vehicle, jumped out of the moving vehicle. The vehicle rolled into a parked car. Then the passenger jumped out and basically ran into that apartment complex, which seems to be where Glendale PD lost visual, somewhere around that U building right there. It might be two separate apartment buildings. In any event, you can see that other black and white just past the property, maybe trying to form a containment area. A little bit late for that because they really don't have enough resources on the ground to perform a proper search here, at least least any kind of a perimeter that's containable. So right now they have eyes from above, looking for any signatures, any movement, or possibly any open doors back there. We did see an open doors. He tried several windows. The windows were barred, but one of the doors was open, but they may be hiding pretty much anywhere on this block. There's one black and white, and that I don't think is one of the ones that followed him off the freeway. When we first picked up the pursuit, there were about 2 or 3 Glendale police officers westbound on the 10 freeway following him from about a half-mile back, but I think he managed to lose them when he got off of the freeway. That appears to be what's happened here. The driver and the passenger in a gray-colored vehicle. We'll go ahead and show you that car as it rolled into another parked car. There it is right there behind that work truck. It just rolled into that parked car. That's when the passenger jumped out and ran back towards the driver into that apartment building. And now we see some more black and whites. Glendale PD mostly pulling up on this pursuit termination. No sign of LAPD yet. The helicopter that just flew through the shot there is helping out. That I believe is Pasadena PD, who often assists Glendale with these types of situations. So that's Pasadena PD above, Glendale PD on the ground trying to isolate these 2 suspects.
And what official city are we in at this point?
We're in mid-city here, just off of the 10 freeway, just to the west of downtown near Jefferson Park. They ran actually north of the 10 freeway, which I think would be the dividing line between Jefferson Park and mid-city. But in any event, if you go a little further north of here, you'd be in Koreatown. They didn't make it that far. They basically made an immediate right just off the 10 freeway, and now I've counted at least 3 separate Glendale PD units. But once again, at this point, it's been several minutes, so many opportunities for these 2 suspects to find a hiding spot and essentially hunker down. It'll be interesting. We will see to what lengths they go through here to try and find these 2, but certainly you see them bringing out some long weapons. We do not know. It's worth mentioning, Philip, we do not know what the original want was for these 2 suspects.
Well, and Chris, you bringing that up, it kind of leads to my next question. This is an unusual occurrence here in that you're in mid-city, you have Glendale PD following these suspects on the freeways, and then you have another agency as a helicopter. So it kind of makes you believe that there is at least something serious, that these suspects are wanted for beyond just maybe driving recklessly. But they did drive recklessly. We saw them hit at least 1 car. They damaged that van by bailing out. Now, we did not see weapons when we saw them running away, but that does not mean that they aren't armed. But it does seem unusual, doesn't it, that Glendale PD would make this kind of presence in mid-city?
It does. They're definitely going to extra lengths. And they often will chase suspects out of their jurisdiction. Not terribly unusual, but this is obviously more than just a traffic infraction. Let's put it that way. To go to these lengths, chase them all the way to this part of town, we're well out of Glendale's jurisdiction, but now you see them bringing in more resources with more weaponry, and it leads you to believe that there are some serious charges that these 2 are facing, and potentially even a violent crime. So we'll probably stop the speculation there, but suffice it to say, these 2 are wanted suspects by the Glendale Police Department. Again, Pasadena often providing that helicopter to neighboring jurisdictions like Glendale, so they were the ones that were really calling the shots as Glendale PD pulled back on the ground, didn't want to drive as risky as that driver was driving. They were able to keep eyes on that suspect with that Pasadena PD police helicopter, and now you see more Glendale PD units pulling in here. It'll be interesting to see if they call for mutual aid from the LAPD, which as of yet we have not seen, but that I would anticipate will be happening here in the next few minutes if they continue to carry on the suspect search.
It almost seems as if, the next steps will be how confident they are. They know that the suspects are in those apartments there because, we saw them just trying to find anything. So if they are certain they're in there, then maybe that will be more of an LAPD presence as well if they need to set up a perimeter, because we did see about 4 SUVs from Glendale following on the freeway, but that's certainly not going to be able to be enough to block off and quarantine a whole neighborhood and put a boundary out, is it?
Yeah, no, that's not going to cut it. And to your point, we saw them trying to break into any window that they could find. Now, all of those windows along that building they had bars on them, but who's to say they didn't manage to find a way into that building? I saw an open door that may very well be where they entered. And for all we know, this could be a home invasion in progress. We just don't know. And for that reason, I would expect at some point here in the near future, if they do feel confident that the suspects are in this vicinity, that LAPD will very likely have units pulling in here in the next few minutes. But right now, you can see some marked and undercover Glendale units taking part in this operation. So certainly some evidence that these two are wanted for some more serious crimes. Let's put it that way.
And as we kind of watch what happens as they identify these buildings, you can see here to the right, this is the circumstance when the suspect initially jumped out. That was the driver who began to run away, and then shortly thereafter the passenger was also out of the vehicle. And this is what we're talking, that's the passenger. This is what we're talking about, where they just went by any number of openings and kind of peeked in. But I must admit, Chris, that scene right there when he opened the door was strikingly similar to a fatal departure of a vehicle that we watched live when a suspect jumped out of a vehicle he thought was going slow enough that he would survive it, but he was traveling at about 30, 35 miles an hour at the time. So it is scary to watch somebody get out of a vehicle in that circumstance, because while this person was able to keep running, that doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't have been a horrific accident for this person if he tripped and fell and the vehicle ran over him. So it was very lucky he survived that.
Very lucky, and it always makes me wonder why at that point, why at that given moment did he decide to dump the vehicle right there without even pulling it into park, just jumping. Something spooked him, something happened that motivated him to exit the vehicle, and now we have to wonder, what else happened during this pursuit, because just looking at that vehicle, you could see pretty heavy damage both on the front bumper and the side skirt of that vehicle. Now, certainly that damage could have been there before today, but there's always the possibility.
We saw him hit one vehicle. We saw him force his way through one intersection.
Yeah, he came very close. I wasn't sure he made contact as he was getting off the freeway. As he was exiting the 10 freeway, he really threaded the needle through two cars at a red light, came very close to making contact there, but the driving the entire time, just in the short time that we were over the pursuit, was so reckless and so erratic. Again, just got to wonder if there were any other collisions over the course of this pursuit, which lasted in the range of about a half hour since it had started in Glendale's jurisdiction. Yeah,
we did. So you're looking at video there from earlier in the chase on the right, and that's what Chris is talking about. As he exited the freeway, hits that woman's car, and it's always one of those things where you wonder what goes through the mind of that traffic victim. They're bumped from behind, and then the person just keeps on going, and it must be unsettling for sure. And then when you only find out, because they left, that's a hit and run. So that person left, and now you're left to try to figure out what to do with your vehicle, and officers have to respond to that. So here we are looking through some of the windows. Are you guys just kind of looking, or do you have an idea as to what's going on in there?
No, we're really just kind of perusing that apartment building, and to be honest with you, I'm not certain that even that Pasadena police helicopter can say for sure that they are still at this particular property. I think there was just so much opportunity for them to hide and continue. I mean, you can see all of the landscaping and vegetation on both sides of the building, so many different hiding spots. They could have easily by now, unless that pilot saw them go into the building, they easily could be anywhere along this block at this point, taking a breather.
That's true. Chris, it's right now 2:50, coming up on 2:50 here on our streaming channel. I am going to step away here. This is near Washington and Arlington, for those who are wondering, the actual cross streets there in Mid-City. But I'm going to step away. Get ready for Eyewitness News at 3 o'clock. You're going to continue to monitor this and give information as we find it. But I'm going to step away, and you take it from here.
That's right. We'll talk to you in just about 10 minutes, Philip, on Eyewitness News at 3 o'clock. In the meantime, Chris Christie up in Air 7 HD as we continue to follow the termination of a wild police pursuit through the streets of through the streets of Mid-City, just to the west of downtown LA, as Glendale PD pursued these two suspects through the East LA interchange, past downtown onto the 10 freeway, and just about 20 minutes ago, about maybe 10 minutes ago, I should say, exited the freeway onto 21st Street here, where these suspects are now hiding out in the area of Washington and Arlington near Jefferson Park. You can see that gray vehicle right there, heavily tinted windows. The suspects jumped out while the vehicle was still moving. The vehicle rolled into that parked car, and then the two suspects ran into what we believe is an apartment building right there. But by now, they could certainly be almost anywhere in this general area. There really are not, there's not enough manpower down there to really isolate these two or form any kind of an effective perimeter. So the opportunity to hide and potentially escape is very real and very possible, unless they have information that we don't have. In many cases, law enforcement does have more intelligence at their disposal, and so for that reason, we are seeing them continue making an effort here to surround this group of homes along 21st Street and Cimarron. This is all Glendale PD at this point, both uniformed and unmarked cars involved in this pursuit. And they have all converged here on this pair of apartment buildings where we believe they were last sighted. They were last seen running down the block, and the first driver, the first suspect who ran through this apartment building, ran along the left side of the building, underneath those palm trees, tried to open a window, looking for any way to get in the building, looking for any spot to hide out, and then magically disappeared behind the building. And from then on, we have not seen any motion in or around this building. In fact, there was somebody almost doing some gardening, it looked like, when we first pulled up there in the front of the building, an innocent bystander. But since then, we have not seen anybody in or around these two apartment buildings where we believe those two suspects were last seen after they fled their vehicle. So we do not know what they were originally wanted for. We don't even know whether that car was their vehicle. We don't know if that vehicle belonged to them, if it was a stolen car, what other crimes may have been committed here. Certainly it appeared the vehicle was pretty heavily damaged, but it was still in drivable condition as far as we could tell before it rolled into that parked van right there in the center of your screen, just kind of bumping into it. Not sure if the passenger steered the wheel over towards the curb there, or if it just rolled into that car by itself. But the passenger jumped out not more than 30 seconds after the driver did, and both of them ran in the same direction into this general area.